So let's talk about wet storage. So wet storage has been around for a while. It's where you, after you sort your product, harvest your product, you want to put it somewhere so you have easy access to it to reduce your labor costs. And you can have the product ready to go when somebody just randomly wants some oysters, right? The first option I've seen throughout the years is the sink float, which is a float with the area cut out in the middle that goes into the water column a couple feet. So you put your oysters right in the little platform there. They're exposed to the water column there. And that's been used throughout time, seems like to me. Intertidally, I know some people throw them intertidally. And down in Washington, they'll put them up higher on the beach so easier access to them. That's not something that's going to be happening here. Hanging off a dock or off your harvest frame is something that people do. And then I've seen a lot of people use a low tide installed pump where they put the intake down at the -4 as far as you can go. And at high tide, you pump water into upland tanks. Deep water intakes work even better, of course. You have access to cooler water. And then there's also upland recirculating systems where you just use recirculating water with filters, and we'll talk about that in a second. Galls has one of the bigger systems, companies in Spain. Nova Scotia has one, the Aqua Production Systems. And I'll talk about Taylor's massive system in a second. And then we can open up for other folks, talk about their systems that they have. So hanging off a dock, kick off the sea lines, throw the product off of there. In deeper water, cooler water, reduce your Vibrio risk. These tanks here are fed by a -4 intake that they use, Chelsea Sea Farms uses. And you can pull the truck right up to the tanks. It's pretty handy. And this is Taylor's system. They harvest so many oysters that they're always kind of implicated in Vibrio illnesses, right? So they wanted to reduce their risk. So they thought it was worth the money to create this massive system, to have a recirculating system, chill recirculating system, and it works really, really well. This is the first version. This is the small version. This is probably not going to happen here. Maybe eventually, right? So these are just a tote big system. And then that works so well, they build a bigger system in 2025. This is massive. It holds hundreds of pallets. And there's a crane that goes around to lift the pallets back and forth. They limit the time the oysters and clams are in here to 8 days because you don't want to get rid of the miroir of your product, right? Because you're just having it's just filtered seawater, right? So it's UV, sand filtered, chilled, and so it's not seeing what you see out there in the elements, right? You're not seeing the phytoplankton and all the good stuff. And that's all this is where it's drained out. Just massive. But it works. Reduces the Vibrio risk. All the product that comes out of there is pristine, ready to go. This is the smaller version of that. This is the Galza system that show water down the Willapa Bay and Hama Hama use. So I helped one of these companies, I don't know how to tell you who, get a deep water intake permitted through the Army Corps. And DNR. I was so happy about this because it took forever. Lots of different time and effort on my part, mapping for eelgrass. But then they found out about these systems. So they banded it. They were going to dig the intake trench. I was so excited about it, but these jerks from Spain have this system where it's just actually cheaper than running the pump all the time, right? And it's guaranteed to have it at a certain temperature if the electricity is still working. So for them, it's just right at their upland facility, so it reduces their Vibrio risk, lower labor, because you access it whenever you want. You don't have to go back in the bay. You don't have to worry about the weather. So it's beautiful. One thing I want to talk about these systems is that you can't have, like I said before, you don't want the product in here too long. I'm not going to say who, but I did do a taste test in one of these places where product was there for 3 weeks, and it had a terrible taste to it. it did not taste like an oyster that you want. It had a weird off taste to it. So something to keep in mind, you want to keep the product rolling through it. So these are just parts just cobbled together from Agalzi. They're powder coated to keep the saltwater intrusion at bay, but there's a controller, as you can see there, a protein skimmer, UV, sand filter, a couple pumps, a chiller, and then ozone, just to kill even more things. Ozone is more of the tricky thing that I hear to keep dialed in, because that will give some off flavors and it actually will start killing your oysters if you have too much ozone. So that's probably one of the trickier things as far as these Agalzi systems, and not just, you can just get off the shelf and run with it. You have to do some tweaking of your own.